And welcome to another installment of Impact Showdown. Lee Sanders here. Thank you guys so much for checking out this week's episode, dropping at you for the weekend of January 19th, 2019. Are you glad that Impact Showdown is back, covering all things Impact Wrestling news, and beyond? Well, I hope you are. And if you have not done so already, please make sure you hit that subscribe. However you're checking this out, be it on demand, on the downloads. If you haven't subscribed, do subscribe so you never miss out on this weekly series and also some other good bonus shows that we do for you every single week, like the RCWR show, covering the latest in wrestling, entertainment, and beyond since 2011, along with some awesome special guests that's going to be dropping by the show very soon in the coming weeks. So let's jump right into it. Week 2 of Impact Wrestling being on the Pursuit channel. And once again, for those of you, because I continue to see the comments coming in via social media, there's been a couple of comments coming my way on the YouTube channel, and I've had to hold some of those comments in moderation because it's, oh wow, this is the same thing, and I don't really think Impact, be it they are doing a phenomenal job putting the word out there, but I don't really think there's that many people that are aware that if they don't have the Pursuit channel, it's okay. They can just hop on Twitch Friday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern, and they can watch Impact Wrestling that way. But maybe it's a situation where some people are out and they usually are recording the shows on their DVR and they go back and they check it out that way. I mean, if that is the situation for some people, then yeah, that kind of makes things a little bit But one thing I definitely would look into is maybe seeing about Sling TV. I know with Sling TV, you can add whatever channels, packages, and all of that. And when it's all said and done, you may just have to end up paying about somewhere between $15 to $20 a month, depending on what all you're adding to it. So that may be a really good thing to explore. You could also maybe go in the direction of DirecTV Now if the Pursuit channel is available on that avenue, but I would try the Sling TV first, since as far as customization goes, doesn't get any better than that, just in case there are those of you that really do not have the opportunity to hop on Twitch and all that. But this was week 2 of Pursuit and Twitch. Like I told you guys, I'm no longer able to access the Impact Wrestling show on Pursuit, not unless I want to pay $14 extra a month with my respected cable provider. And if you're like me, your package is already at a limit as it is, as far as, okay, I'm adding the sports package. Okay, I got to add this movie package. Okay, well, I want my Western package. So when you get done adding all of those packages, the last thing you want to hear is, oh, got to add another package just so I can watch this one channel. I like having the option of watching Twitch. And I got to tell you, not since I was a little kid in the 80s, has there ever been a really great time to be a pro wrestling fan. Because on Friday nights, just really stop and think about it. Yeah, you get a little something on Wednesday, but Friday nights, you talk about wow. Seriously. No, and I said wow, and I'm getting ready to talk about wow. That's funny. But Friday nights, if you're a wrestling fan, it is really jam-packed. So now on Access TV, you've got the 1 hour of New Japan Pro Wrestling. And then hour 2, you've got WOW, the Women of Wrestling. That show, I'll talk more about that on this coming week's RCWR show. But if you guys have not checked that out, you didn't check out the season premiere or the series premiere on Access, I'm telling you, you guys need to make that be part of your new rotation. So you get that show, that takes you up 2 hours. And then by the time that's over, you hop on over to Impact Wrestling. I mean, it's a really nice block of wrestling program on Friday nights that you can't beat if you're staying in. You ain't got to get up for work in the morning. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. So on this week's Impact Wrestling, I tell you, I was cringing a little bit because I didn't like how things had began. We had saw Fala Bala taking on, what is it, FM or KM, whatever the hell that dude's name is. KM. Actually, no. Forgive me. It wasn't KM. it was actually Falabala with KM, but KM was the one that was doing the fighting as he was taking on Khalib Conley. And first couple of seconds, you're like, okay, well, this is all right. All right, I guess it's okay. Not really what I'd use for an opener, but okay, it is what it is. Then all of a sudden, the cameras had abruptly switched to a backstage area where we see Brian Cage is just on a serious rampage, attacking people left and right, and he's calling out Johnny Impact in the process. So eventually, we see a scenario occur where he is just getting in everyone's face and is asking about the status of Impact. Somebody tells him that Impact actually made his way out to the ring. So Cage ends up storming to the ring, clotheslines the hell out of KM, tosses him out of the ring, delivers a nice strong European uppercut to Conley in the corner, beat him up really good, did a German suplex on him. I'm telling you, the Terminator, Brian Cage, is just causing havoc. He is just leaving dead bodies all over the place, man. And eventually, he grabs one of the referees. And this referee, very questionable, because this is the referee that did the 3 count at Homecoming. We see Cage connect with the drill claw on that ref. So that match that was going down earlier between KM and Caleb Conley, that ended in a no contest. Cage gets on the microphone and recalls how he was promised the next title shot and that he'll be around next week in Mexico City. Remember, Impact Wrestling is going to be giving us a few episodes from Mexico City. He claimed that he was going to definitely be having a strong interest in the Johnny Impact versus Killer Kross match for the title. Impact finally comes out, but gets jumped from behind by Killer Kross and Moose as they are just stomping a mud hole in his ass as Brian Cage just watches on. Moose would eventually finish things off with a strong kick to the face of Impact as Cage continued to watch. Kross and Moose eventually make their exit, and then Cage goes on outside of the ring, up to the ramp, retrieves Johnny Impact's limp body, drags him into the ring. Moose returns, spears Impact while Kross delivers a high ankle back suplex. Take a commercial break. We come back. Cage is backstage being taped up. He's pushing away ref and other officials saying he doesn't need any help. He doesn't need the tape. He looks into the camera and he says all he cares about right now is Johnny Impact and that Impact World Heavyweight Championship that is around his waist. He also sends a strong message to Moose, which is that if he wants to get involved in his business, they can go one-on-one tonight. From there, we get a recap of everything that's going to be coming about in the show. And from there, we get our first official match of the night, which consisted of Ethan Page taking on Eddie Edwards. This was actually a good bout. Definitely had enjoyed it. One thing that they haven't quite cleared up just yet, which is Eddie Edwards had escaped from the mental hospital. So what exactly is the status of that? Is it a situation now where, did Joseph Parks maybe get involved and smooth things over? Did Impact Wrestling smooth things over? That's something that just was totally left out dangling in the wind, and I really wish that Impact would kind of brush that up a little bit. I get it, we're not really supposed to be thinking about that, but I can't help but wonder how is this guy continuing to have these wrestling matches when he escaped from the insane asylum, right? So, alright, to each its own. But good matchup. Closing moments of this matchup, we actually saw Edwards. He grabbed a kendo stick and he just went ballistic and started hitting Page with it. Kendo stick was not supposed to be part of this match. This was just supposed to be a traditional one-on-one match, win by pinfall or submission. You get counted out. You can't get disqualified. Those were in effect. And since we saw Eddie Edwards with the kendo stick attacking Paige belligerently. Eddie Edwards got DQ'd. From there, we go to Eli Drake, who gets on a microphone and he's talking to Eddie Edwards, saying, hey, at the rate that Eddie is going, he puts in a little bit more effort with the pancakes and drinking of the beer. He'll be looking like Tommy Dreamer in no time. A little bit of shade being thrown at Tommy Dreamer. That's so cold, Eli. Drake puts Edwards' career in perspective for him, reminding him that he's held and fought for many titles before he started pursuing hardcore. Drake encourages him to leave the kendo stick behind and find the champion he used to be, because right now all he's seeing of Edwards is a straight up loser. From there we go to a backstage segment. OVE, Sami Callihan. They are talking about the importance of family. Callihan sends a message to Rich Swann that it's time for Swann to come on home to Ohio, but that tonight it's all about the most violent feud of 2017 renewed, as in the main event match for tonight, it's going to be LAX taking on OVE. Cut to a backstage segment. We see the Rascals in their weed/stoner circle. Honestly, I always tune out when it comes to these segments. I don't think it's funny. I get that they're doing the whole laugh track, and I get that. It has that 70s show vibe and some other stuff. I get it. I do. But I never was really a fan of that 70s show. I definitely didn't particularly care about the little round table circle that they did. I definitely don't care about these little segments with these guys. It's not appeasing to me. It doesn't please my eye. It doesn't make me connect with these guys even more with their characters on TV. It does not make me more intrigued. I don't find it funny. I don't find it entertaining. I really wish that Impact Wrestling would look for more ways to go about getting these guys in the Rascals over character-wise. I think there's a way that you can be funny and entertaining without needing to resort to such low-level poor man's comedy like this. I mean, this isn't even comedy. I just call it killing time. For me, the segments for the most part don't really make any sense. It is what it is. And look, I'm not the only one that was feeling that way. I know we're probably going to have some people that are big fans of these guys. Just really make sure you're homing in on what I'm saying exactly. I don't have anything personal against these men, because I don't know these men personally, so I can't talk about them from a personal standpoint. I'm not talking about what they are doing in the ring. I'm familiar with these three guys' work in the ring, and I love their in-ring work. I love their style. What I have a problem with is the stoner segments. That's it altogether. I wish they would do, for me, I wish they would do a bit of a more, what's that? Kumar and whoever the other guy is going to White Castle, or maybe like Clerks. I wish they would kind of borrow some elements from that and maybe go in that type of a direction. Maybe that would be more appeasing, I personally feel, but hey, to each its own. But I wasn't the only one that was feeling the way that I was feeling about these guys, because I remember when I was interacting with people during the Twitch stream, there was a lot of people that were just panning the hell out of that segment. So we go to another matchup after that. Great redeeming quality if you were able to get through that stoner segment. Jordan Grace was taking on Dark Alley. And I tell you what, if you guys are not participating in the Twitch stream, you are missing a lot, because during the Twitch stream, certain Impact superstars are actually taking part in interacting with folks during the broadcast. So for about at least the first hour, Jordan Grace graced us with her presence, and she was really cool. She was being very friendly. At one point, we kept seeing these dick emojis. You know how sometimes you could just put a whole bunch of key symbols together and eventually it makes shapes or whatever? Well, there were a few people that were in the chat and they were making these images of dicks exploding jizz, And we saw at one point Jordan Grace say something like, that Gillette commercial is so spot on. And I just couldn't help but facepalm. And I was actually saying, mods, where you at, man? Where are you guys at? Like, do your job already. And she was in there. Who else was in there? Rosemary popped in the chat. Josh was with us all night. Every single time Impact took a commercial break, he popped up. He was giving shout outs. And it was really cool. Very laid back. I gotta tell you, man, Josh, I've been fucking with him a lot more and more. He is really coming off very cool, very laid back. I'm really digging him a lot more than Michael Cole, I would have to say. And I know for some people that hear that and they think I'm kind of crazy or whatever, I challenge you, just on a Friday night, you got the weekend to yourself, hop on Impact Wrestling on Twitch and just get lost in the moment and just enjoy. And I think you'll definitely kind of come to that same conclusion that I had. Yeah, now look, when it comes to sell, Michael Cole is definitely good at that. When you need that structure, when you need to make sure that you are going in a certain direction with a match, with a product or whatever, straightforward, vanilla bland. Yeah, Michael Cole is really good at that. But there's just something about Josh Matthews that makes it a bit more real, organic. Yeah, real organic and more human. And I tell you what he's been doing with these commercial breaks on Twitch, really in my eyes, just from these past couple of weeks, it just really makes you connect with him more. And I know he's pretty big on the social media stuff and he's been toying around with this for a long time, pretty much ever since he had first hooked up with Impact Wrestling. And I tell you, he's been really doing a good job. I gotta give him a lot of credit for that. But yeah, we saw Jordan Grace. She had fought Dark Allie. And damn good matchup. I tell you what, Jordan Grace at one point, she put on one of the most prettiest, what was it? It was a German suplex with a bridge pin. I love that. The German suplex with pin. I love that. Bridge and pin. I love that. She only had got a 2 count from that, but I loved it. She also had a pretty sweet ass vertical suplex on Allie. Loved that spot as well. Su Yung, Kira Hogan, they were at ringside rooting their respected partners on. Closing moments of that matchup, we saw Grace pretty much hulking up, if you will, and was just coming at Allie with the strikes, forearms, the works. Grace Irish whip Allie in the corner, runs after her, but Allie boots her in the face. Allie tries to go for a code breaker, but Grace throws her away and then hits a pretty badass Michinoku driver. I don't know. It kind of looked like a Pentagon driver, if you want to call it that. Got the 1, 2, 3 that way. Pretty much that was it. Grace rolled out after that. She's like, okay, got my W, bye, bitch. And after that, we see Allie licking up her wounds. And Su Yung gets in the middle of the ring. And she looks a little bit disappointed. But we see her extend her hand to Allie, like trying to pick her up. Lights go out for 2 seconds. When they come back on, Rosemary is standing exactly where Su Yung was. And we see this weird exchange, if you want to call it that, between Allie and Rosemary, where Allie is pretty close to taking the hand of Rosemary, but then suddenly just backs up and just scurries out of the ring. And that pretty much was it. I'm loving what's going on with these teases, man. I really, really am. Scarlett Bordeaux is backstage, talks about how she brought Sexy back to Impact Wrestling. Also talks about how she's watched all the videos and did all her research on everyone that's on the roster. She's made her pick as far as the person who won her talent search. And she's going to be revealing that news. You know, big hype that was coming about for her. So let's get right into that, right? Weeks upon weeks upon weeks. She basically said the winner was her. She talked about how she single-handedly has reshaped Impact Wrestling, how she is one of the most talked about women on the roster, and was talked about talent on the roster. She also talked about how very, very soon she is going to be taking her talents into the ring. So yes, apparently in the very near future, we're going to be seeing her in the ring. Hey, I think this should be a no-brainer for folks. You can spell it a mile away that she was going to be going in this direction, right? So I really, come on. If you were that gullible, bless your heart, really. And I don't mean to be a dick. I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm not even sounding sarcastic. Bless your heart if you really thought she was going to be choosing somebody kind of similar to what went down with Bobby Roode and 1 minute Bobby Heenan and then Mrs. Tessmacher and all these people just coming left and right trying to acquire his services, and eventually he picked somebody. Yeah. One thing though, man, I thought it was interesting that for the little bit of dialogue that Scarlett Bordeaux had to hype up in putting herself over, that she was reading cue cards. Like when you go back and you watch that segment where she's revealing, you can see her eyes are literally reading something. And I'm going, wait, are you legitimately reading this? You aren't just looking for the red eye on the camera and you're just going that way. It just felt, don't get me wrong, man. She's very cute and everything, but she's still very green, very, very green. I have to tell you, but hey, look. Smoking hot, babe. You can never go wrong, especially on the Friday night. Moose versus Brian Cage. That match was actually pretty damn good. Nice, good back and forth. Battle of the powerhouses. Love this. We saw Brian Cage win this one. Brian Cage closing moments of this matchup. We saw Moose back Cage into the corner. Cage came right back, kicked to the sternum. Moose hits the go to hell from the top rope on Cage. That only got him a 2 count. Moose goes back to the outside, grabs a steel chair, tries to apply it to Cage, but Cage manages to dodge it and hits a jumping knee and then connects with the drill claw for the 1-2-3. Good matchup. Cage is celebrating as we then immediately go to an update on the condition of Taya Valkyrie. Valkyrie says she hasn't been cleared just yet, but when she does, Cross is going to get his. Valkyrie then goes on further to explain how Tessa Blanchard can play the running around game, blaming everybody else for why she lost the title. But Valkyrie tells her, hey, Impact Wrestling is going to be in Mexico City next week. You can definitely get in my face, mano y mano, and we can settle it there. Speaking of Tessa Blanchard, when we come back from commercial, we see Tessa Blanchard is backstage, extremely pissed off. She blames Gail Kim for losing her Knockouts title, and she's attacking everybody left and right. She's attacking production crew members. She is attacking referees, the whole 9 yards. And it got so freaking bad that I believe it was Scott D'Amore that finally had got into her face, tells her, you've taken this way too far. You're suspended. You're suspended indefinitely. Get out of here. And when I saw this, if you remember on last week's Impact Showdown, I had said to you guys, it should be interesting to see what direction Tessa Blanchard is going to go in storyline wise, because with her doing what she's doing now with WOW on Access TV, can she really continue to have that and what she's doing on Impact Wrestling coexist on the same night? Can that really go down that way? And I told you guys, the way Impact Wrestling had their contract structured in the past is one thing if, okay, you could do these events, but you're not going to appear on TV. You're not going to appear on live pay-per-view. Okay, all right, fine. You can go ahead. You can do it. So I'm very curious to see how things are going to pan out for probably these next 3 episodes, just to see how they properly handle the Tessa Blanchard character, if Tessa Blanchard's going to pop up at all during these Mexico City tapings, or that was it for her, what we saw this week for now, as she's going out and helping in the WOW promotion. So if this is how Impact Wrestling is writing her off for now, so that she can go focus on WOW, then it's really smart how they had set this up for her. So we had a non-title matchup, Trey Miguel taking on Rich Swann. It's a good matchup. I actually had enjoyed that. Rich Swann had picked up the win on that one. Closing moments of that one, we had saw Rich Swann connect with a spinning heel kick, 450 splash off the second rope, connect with the 1-2-3. I enjoyed this. This was very fast-paced, very technical. A little bit of lucha, if you will, a little bit of lucha libre in there, to a certain degree, definitely. Cruiserweight, let's go with that. Let's not say lucha, let's go more with the whole cruiserweight. Thinking a little bit of 205 there. It's definitely good spot. Post-match, Sami Callihan and OVE, they came on out once again, trying to get Rich Swann to come on back. They tossed Swann a OVE shirt. Swann looked as though he was seriously considering it when LAX had made their entrance. Swann then had took his exit. Pretty much now going into our main event match, LAX versus OVE 2017 feud renewed. Good closer matchup. LAX picking up the win. Closing moments of that matchup, we had saw Ortiz appear on the apron, push Dave down to the outside. LAX using a combo, rolling cutter, running code breaker at that. Super kick and their combo tilt-a-whirl face slam to pick up the 1-2-3 for that one. Backstage, LAX, they're celebrating and they're tagging along with Conan when they bump into the Lucha Brothers. The Lucha Brothers congratulate LAX, call them Familia, but as they're walking away, Ortiz shows disrespect by yelling out, "Hey, if you ever want another ass whooping, let us know, baby." And Conan immediately angry as you don't know what, saying, "What the hell are you guys doing? What the hell are you guys thinking?" And Impact Wrestling pretty much had ended that way. Very good episode, I would have to say, this week. Very fast-paced. Quick 2 hours. I mean, these 2 hours, they went by so goddamn fast. It wasn't even funny. I mean, a lot of good fun, good action. The energy in every single match and every single segment was just on point. And, you know, for me, if there were only two areas that made me go, like I said with the whole Stoner segment, I didn't particularly care for that. I didn't particularly care how we had Khalib and KM, but then when Brian Cage came out, that pretty much had justified it. It didn't last 5 minutes for what we saw with Cage. I mean, when we saw Khalib and KM, I would say it probably was about 3 minutes before Cage came out, pretty much cleaned house in the ring with those guys. The Tessa Blanchard spot, it didn't quite make sense to me, and I'm going to explain to you the reason why, because I got to keep up with storyline consistency. It didn't quite make sense to me because just last week we saw Tessa Blanchard, I forget the young girl that she was fighting, but we saw her in this squash match. Tessa just made her look like, hey, cup of Joe, whatever. She didn't get on a microphone. She didn't cut no promo on Gail Kim. Nothing like that. Nothing like that. She seemed very calm, very composed, dusting her shoulders off. She was coming out, singing to her song or lip syncing to her song, all that stuff. But then to go from that to what we had saw this week. Now, see, the way that could have been cleaned up a little bit, if I could have gone back in and tweaked that a bit myself, I would have had it be a situation where once you saw that health update with Taya Valkyrie, I would have done an easy transition to a backstage segment where Tessa Blanchard is looking at that Taya Valkyrie spot on the health update and the challenge to Mexico City. And then you could have had Tessa Blanchard be like, that fucking bitch, that little fucking bitch, I'm gonna get her. we could have seen her maybe flip out then, and maybe somebody comes around her, hey, Tessa, what's wrong? Are you okay? And she just clocks whoever and then goes into the whole, hey, I would still be champion if it wasn't for Gail Kim, blah this, blah that. It's just really, really, it was disorganized how that was pretty much set up. It really, really was. I would have even done some type of a situation where, kind of going back to last week's episode, maybe what you actually should have done was last week, you should have had Tessa Blanchard come out and say, hey, I'm not leaving this ring until I see Gail Kim. Where's Gail Kim? I want Gail Kim. I'm not leaving this ring until I get Gail Kim. And, Tessa could have said something along the lines of, I'm here for a fight. I want to fight Gail Kim. Bring her out here right now. And maybe we could have seen that young girl come out and say, hey, I'm sorry, but, Gail's not here this week. But, if you're looking for a fight, I'm not doing anything. I'd be more than happy to fight you. That kind of would have made a little bit of sense. And then Tessa does what she does to that girl, gets on the microphone, pissed off, still looking for Gail Kim once again, goes belligerent on this week's episode after seeing the spot with Taya, because just the thought of losing the title and then what the circumstances, because Gail Kim was the one that cost her the title, all of that would have just made a little bit more perfect sense, but they didn't go in that direction, so it was kind of whatever. But overall, still a very good episode, I would have to say. They are continuing on with the action. Speaking of Impact, their next pay-per-view is going to be taking place in Toronto at the Rebel Entertainment Complex for Lockdown. This is according to PW Insider. Lockdown, as you know, that is a traditional Impact Wrestling pay-per-view event where all the matches are basically steel cage matches. So, speaking of which, Impact had announced a number of segments for next week's show that's going to be taking place in Mexico. We are going to be seeing Johnny Impact defend the Impact World Championship against Killer Cross. Rich Swann will be taking on El Hero del Vacango. Hopefully I pronounced that name right. If I did not, give me a couple of weeks, I will get it down. Desi Hit Squad will take on the Rascals, and Impact Knockouts champion Taya Valkyrie makes her return. Trying to think if there's any other Impact Wrestling news we can share with you guys. It's been kind of a little bit of a slow week here or there. We could definitely talk with you guys about Jordynne Grace. Jordynne Grace had made headlines. She was in a recent interview. Also, Impact Wrestling's Ed Nordholm, he had talked about the future of Impact as far as pay-per-views and all that goes. So we could definitely talk about that. So not really too much. Oh, and for those of you that are a little bit curious with regards to the Impact viewership for this week's episode, it peaked, I saw, at 7,000, I want to say 7,700. The lowest I saw pretty much going into the second hour, probably saw it dip to about 6.7. So 6,700. I mean, that's not really too bad, right? No, that's not too bad at all. So Jordynne Grace, she had recently talked about how her deal with Impact Wrestling had came about. And she said, and I quote, I don't really know how it came about. I don't know who in the office liked my work, but I got contacted on Twitter, actually, which is another reason I like to keep my DMs open. And that's where I was offered a contract through a Twitter DM. It's been really fun so far. I like the locker room there. A lot of people I already know, so it's really nice. She also talked about her fiance, Jonathan Grisham. To me, he's the best in the world. And I think to a lot of people, he's the best in the world. He was underrated for so long, and I'm so glad he's finally gotten the chance to show people what he can actually do. I'm extremely proud of him. So, for those of you that were curious how that contract came about, there you go. Because we were just talking about her on the show last week, how she ended up closing her DMs because she's been getting bombarded with a bunch of spam messages. A lot of those messages very inappropriate. We were talking about Ed Nordholm earlier, the executive vice president of Anthem Sports and Entertainment and Impact Wrestling. He had sat down for a very lengthy VIP discussion recently with my good friends over at Wrestling Inc. And one of the things that they had homed in on was the fact that since Anthem has total control of the network and the company, what their intent is as far as guaranteeing Impact is being accessed from as many homes as possible. And he said, and I quote, one of the advantages of moving to a channel that's within our own family is that we have a lot of flexibility on what we can do and where we can broadcast. It's our platform, our distribution. The conventional broadcaster obviously would be interested in ensuring that they have exclusivity. That's a tongue twister. It's being exclusive. There you go. From an Anthem world, we obviously want our content on our own platform, but we also are quite liberal in how we approach ensuring that our content gets seen as broadly as possible. He also talked about why he believes a Friday night 10 p.m. time slot may be adventurous for Impact Wrestling, mentioning how the lead-in programming will hopefully garner the audience that they're aiming for, saying, and I quote, "will pursue is sort of testing the blind spot that works." Friday night, they've got interesting programming as lead-in programming for us. It's late on Friday night, and we're shooting for guys, so it looks like a great place to stay even, to play even, though it may have historically not been an ideal time spot. And he also had talked about the pay-per-views, as far as how many pay-per-views they're going to be looking to do for this calendar year. He said, and I quote, "we have 4 pay-per-view events for this year." At that moment seems to be the likely cycle, the natural rhythm, 13 weeks of TV, and then wrap it up with a pay-per-view. It was a really great, insightful interview. I definitely would recommend you guys go out of your way and you check it out. It's a very lengthy one. There's no audio from what I'm able to see. It's just an actual, question, answer, pretty much taking the juicy parts of it. I'll see if I can maybe put that in the episode description for you guys as far as a hot link goes, so y'all can check that out. But it was some really good, fun, insightful stuff. Also, Matt Sydal. Matt Sydal is undergoing surgery. For those of you that maybe had missed it, he was pulled from a Warrior Wrestling event earlier this month. He did announce that he's going to be having surgery this coming week. It looks like to repair some type of cartilage in his knee. He's saying that he should be back in the ring March or April. Again, March or April. And other than that, that is pretty much it for Impact Wrestling news. Like I said, it's been relatively a slow week. So we're going to go ahead, definitely going to stick a fork in it, call it DONE, done. Hey, be kind. We had put up the 2018 Wrestling Awards edition episode of the RCWR show. I had put it out kind of late. You guys got to forgive me. I was a little bit down under the weather, but that is available for on demand and on the download. So go on back and check that out before the weekend is out. I'm definitely going to include some show excerpts for you guys to check out. So scoop it up. And I don't know if it's going to be this Tuesday on the RCWR show or the next Tuesday, but we're going to have Anthony Missionary Thomas from Wrestling Soup stop on by the show. Just got to see how his schedule is looking. So I'll have the official announcement on our social media pages. If you're not following me, do so already. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, use the keywords the RCWR show. And at this point, we'll catch you for another live edition of the RCWR show. It's going to come at you on Tuesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, as soon as SmackDown goes off the air. Looking forward to that episode with you guys. Until next go round, I'm wishing all of y'all to be safe and most importantly, be kind to one another. You've been checking out Impact Showdown. See you guys for next week's Impact Showdown.